Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com, and over the next 6 weeks, we're going to be discussing 6 key hands that I played in a $2,000 buy-in tournament at Seminole Hard Rock that I actually won. Believe it or not, I won a tournament for about $100,000. Here's the trophy. We did it. So let's go through some interesting hands. Here we have Joseph Chung, loose, aggressive player. Generally, I mean, he plays well across the board, but he gets a little bit splashy. He raised it up from the hijack seat, and now I have pocket twos in the big blind. This is a spot where I'm just essentially always calling. We're playing 62 big blinds deep, so not incredibly deep. I apparently lost some chips already. Go figure. But we're going to call and just try to set mine. And set mine we do. We have the bottom set, but the board is incredibly dry. First things first, I have no leading range on a very dry board. This is a spot where Joe should be betting basically 100% of the time using a small bet size. So we're going to check. He does bet small. He's going to bet 100% of the time using a small bet size. This is just a very, very simple scenario. If this is unfamiliar to you, definitely go to my training site, PokerCoaching.com. We discuss how to play various flop textures as the pre-flop raiser, as the pre-flop caller, etc. And when the board is very dry, I really should not have too much of a raising range if I think Joe's going to defend his continuation betting range well. Now, some people will, some people won't. I have to presume Joe's going to play well across the board. So if that's the case, I probably want to just call and keep him in the pot with his entire range. Also, I would say in general, people tend to fold a little bit too often, and I don't really want him folding, right? I want him in the pot. I want him to be able to continue betting. So even though we have a very good hand here, it's going to be kind of tough to get paid off unless he just decides to barrel off, or if he happens to have a good hand. If he has nothing and turns no equity, we're just not going to get paid. So kind of a dicey spot. If the board was even a little bit more coordinated, say it was like king, queen 2 or 9-8-2, then I would be way more inclined to raise, because then I could have a lot of draws in my range, as well as the various 2-pair combinations. But here I literally only have like king 8 suited, maybe king 8 offsuit, king 2 suited. I don't have 8-2 at all. I'd probably 3-bet kings, right? So I have almost no nut combinations in my range, and I really just have like no draw combinations in my range. And notice he could easily have aces, ace king, kings, 8s, 2s, king 8 suited, right? He has a big range advantage and a nut advantage. And when that's the case, I really just don't get to raise all that often. So we're going to call and check every turn. This turn's actually, it's good and bad. I mean, if he has a draw like queen 10, he's going to keep betting, which is fine. If he has 10-9, he's going to keep betting. If he has a spade draw, he's going to keep betting. But if he has a jack, he's going to check. So let's say he did have queen jack, he's not going to bet now. So I'm just going to check. And if he does bet now, I actually am probably going to raise. Because if he now bets the turn, he probably has, like I said, either a good made hand, which probably isn't going to fold, because I could have a lot of draws now, or he's going to have a draw, which I don't mind protecting against. And when it does go check-check, I just have the best hand basically every time, and I probably have 100% equity, or very close to it, unless he has a hand like pocket 3s that can draw to a set, or ace-queen that can draw to a straight, right? So if he bet the turn, I would have raised, because, like I said, his range is going to be good made hands like a king that's not going to fold, or a draw. But when he checks, he has a marginal made hand most of the time. River's an ace. And now here you want to ask, who is this river good for? Whose range is this good for? And the answer is his. If he does have ace queen now, he's going to bet it. If he has ace 3, he's going to bet it. So this is a scenario where I don't want to bet myself. Also, if he is sitting here with a hand like just total garbage, like 7-6, he's going to feel very inclined to bluff on this river. A lot of people may look at this and say, well, doesn't he have to worry about you having an ace? Yeah, a little bit, but if he does have a nut low hand, an effective nut low hand, then he needs to bluff with it, and he's good enough to bluff with it. If he does have an ace, it makes it harder for me to have an ace. And if you think about what my range looks like here, it looks like a whole lot of king X or 8X or a 2, right? So if I have a lot of a king, 8, or 2, the ace is the best hand, and he can put in a value bet. So this is a spot where I'm going to check, and I actually do expect him to bet a decent amount of the time, unless he has specifically a jack. Like queen jack doesn't need to bet, but if he had a king, he'd probably bet the turn. So we get to discount those. And he's going to have a whole lot of ace high here, or unpaired hands. And either one, ace high or unpaired hands, will be betting here very frequently. So we do check. He puts out a 3,000 chip bet, and now we have to decide if we should raise. And I think the answer is definitely yes. Obviously, could have queen 10, but remember, I think he bet a lot of his queen 10s on the turn, so I can really discount that. You may say, well, couldn't he have pocket aces? No, he's probably going to bet the turn with pocket aces. So I pretty much have the nuts here in all scenarios. Very rarely can you be very confident you have the nuts with the, I don't even know what this is, like 5th or 6th nuts, but I'm pretty sure we do in this scenario. So we should raise. Question then becomes, how much should we raise? Well, we're trying to get called by an ace. So how much will an ace realistically call? And it's tough to know. I actually am not sure what Joe thinks about me. Clearly, I've been losing hands so far in this tournament, so maybe he thinks I'm annoyed. Maybe he thinks I'm immune to getting annoyed. I don't know. Maybe he thinks I'm a nit. Maybe he thinks I'm a lunatic. I don't think he thinks I'm a lunatic, though. I think he's generally going to think I'm on the tight side, tightish side, not the super blaster side, which is true. I'm not super blaster. So it's going to be hard to get paid in this scenario, except unless he has something like 2 pair or better. But it's kind of unlikely he has 2 pair unless he has like exactly ace jack or ace 8 or ace 2, which is pretty impossible, or at least difficult. So we're going to have a hard time getting paid. Given I think he will fold an ace to any raise, I think I need to raise big just to try to get full value from the 2 pair. So I think I like a sizable raise in this scenario. And I do go for a sizable raise, and I like this a lot. I think this is a raise that at least looks suspicious. It looks like I am trying to generate fold equity. And if he does have 2 pair, I think he's probably going to pay it off. Now, again, the tough thing is I can obviously have just all the sets here if I'm competent. Well, at least, the 8s and the 2s and the jacks. So it's very easy for me to potentially have the nuts. Maybe he thinks I always raise sets on the flop, which is obviously not true. But whenever you do have a set from out of position, it is tough to get paid. And I think a lot of people, when they do have a set, they almost get annoyed that they didn't get paid. But you have to recognize, on King 8-2, you're not going to win a lot of chips unless your opponent has exactly 2 pair. And it's kind of tough to happen whenever your opponent checks behind on the turn. So we're just not going to win a big pot here. And we have to be very happy that we got the 3,000 river bet in. Because for all we know, if we bet the river, maybe he just has 7-6 and he would have folded. Notice if I bet 3,000 on the river and he has an ace, he's just going to call. I suppose every once in a while, if you put him here with exactly something like Queen 7 suited, maybe he decides to bluff raise, but I don't think that's going to happen all that often. He's crazy, but he's not absurd. He can get absurd, but he's not so absurd. So this is a spot where I think the right play on the river definitely is to go for the check raise, and I think a lot of people mess this up by betting the river themselves, and then if they are against the ace just always calls and loses the same 3,000 chips, but when they're against the nut low hands, your opponent just folds. So by checking, you end up getting more money in this pot the vast majority of the time. It's important to recognize who each card helps. Like the ace obviously helps him, and since it helps him, I need to do a lot of checking. If the river was not an ace, if the river was a 3, for example, that doesn't really help anyone. And I should probably go ahead and bet that river, because if I had a king, I'd like to value bet it, right? And if I had a jack, I'd like to value bet it. And if I did happen to have a hand like Queen 10 or 10-9, which I would check call the flop, by the way, whenever you are out of position, if you have any sort of like decent middle cards with a backdoor draw, you should be continuing against a small flop bet. If you're not, you're folding way too often. Again, we discussed this over at PokerCoaching.com/premium. Check out the Cash Game Masterclass. That'll help you with these deep stack scenarios. So anyway, this is a spot where I like my play a lot, and I think it's a spot where a lot of people mess up. If you would have played this one differently, you probably messed it up. So that's me for today. Thanks to Poker News for hosting these. If you like this video, click like, click subscribe. That goes a long way to helping me help other people like you who want to improve their poker skills. Good luck in your games. Have fun. And I will talk to you next time where we continue going through these hands where I won this trophy. Should try to win more trophies. It's nice.